Okay. Got it.
Okay. So the subtitle today is One Light, but Seven Colors. So I got to tie those two thoughts together. The verse is, like I said, 1 Samuel 16:12. So he sent and brought him in. This is the whole context of when the prophet is anointing David as the future king. Very common story that we all, I'm sure, are pretty up to speed on. Samuel the prophet told Jesse to bring in the youngest son, because none of the other sons were quite the one that the Ruach was saying, this is the next king. So when they brought him in, he was seen to be ruddy, with beautiful eyes and a handsome appearance. And the Lord and Adonai said, "Arise, anoint him, for this is he." Now, I wanted to zero in on the word ruddy, but the thing is, I just want to make in the second usage of this here, it's 1 Samuel 17:42, because I need to make it's actually used 3 times, and I just need to give the context for the 3. When David goes again to fight the giant, the Philistine, and the Philistine is all upset because when he sees David coming at him, he's like, "What are you doing? You're sending me a youth who is ruddy and handsome in appearance." And the last usage of this one word is with Esau. This is where we kind of get set up a little dialectic going on here. Esau comes out of the womb in the same way. He is ruddy. Now, the word ruddy, everybody comes from the root word of red. So, I mean, seriously, what is the text saying? And this is my point. You cannot look at this thing as the translator does, that we're just talking about that David was a really good looking kid. And this is how most of it's translated, that he was today's vernacular. He was hot. So that's why he was anointed king. No, these words have such many levels of meaning, and the prophet is saying something very deep here, and that's where I want to go. So the word ruddy is coming from a root word edomani, which means red, and then the other phraseology here, because there's 2 points here. He's ruddy, he has beautiful eyes and a handsome appearance. See, this is my whole issue. And you guys have been around me a little bit. You know I am all about this concept called the keys to the kingdom, the apocryphal understandings, the hidden mysteries. And it's my opinion that unless we get down to this level, take it seriously, believe that it is in our text, and this is how our texts are written, we're just going to be spinning our wheels forever and ever. So that's my opinion. And I don't think that's a secret, so to speak. That's not a hidden mystery or a secret. So these things, so you're ruddy, he's red, and he has beautiful eyes and a handsome appearance. So what could it be telling us in spiritual language, I guess would be my point. So I want to go back to, and just do this, and this is again where I can't be apologetic anymore per se, because I'm very hepped up on this concept now, that until the elect of Elohim, in my opinion, really embrace what Judah has left for us after thousands of years of warfare against them as the scribal house, or the text called the Jewish mysticism, the Kabbalah. There is truth here that needs to be taken seriously and ferreted out. Now, because it gives us the keys to the kingdom, and it gives us these spiritual understanding. So this is my opinion. In the Thanksgiving hymns, there's a little section. These things aren't really versed per se. So I guess I'm in verse, I don't know where I am. That's page 209. I'm reading out of Gizaverm's edition. So if you have that copy, it's page 209. But at the bottom, there's a little couple verses. It says, "And then at that time of judgment, the sword of Elohim shall hasten, and all the sons of his truth shall awaken to overthrow wickedness. All the sons of iniquity shall be no more. The hero shall bend the bow, the fortress shall open onto endless space, and the everlasting gate shall send out weapons of war, and they shall be mighty from end to end of the earth, and they shall be no escape. This is, in my opinion, the summation of where we are, where we're going. We are coming to an end of the age where wickedness, according to Enoch, will be no more. But what are we fighting? Are we fighting a battle in the physical? Are we going to be fighting a battle in the spiritual? I mean, what is this all going to look like? In Hosea, there's another really famous verse that is, Hosea 4:6, where he talks about, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. But see, this is my, again, contention. Everything is in the Hebrew. I believe that all understandings have to be flushed out deeply from studying the Hebrew words, the letters, the vowels, I'm glad Professor Smith is here to hear my testimony on this, but there's so much information packed into these Hebrew letters and their vowel points, the way it's put together, that most Gentile Ephraimite Christians is just, it goes right over our head. And it's been gone over the head of translators, in my opinion, for close to 1900 years. Once we lost our quote unquote Hebraic Essene roots. But this is something that to me is so important to flesh out, because I'll give you a perfect example. So keys to the kingdom. How is the words red, black, and white used scripturally? Most people, and oh my gosh, this can be turned into the most racist, in your face, ill-advised spiritual, what would I say, teachings that you can ever hear. Where, so Ham is black, and the white people are, come from Shem, and you got these Japheth fights, and nothing could be further from the truth in terms of the spiritual applications of these words. And it has caused wars, bloodsheds, animosity between the people groups. It is probably because we lost the keys to the kingdom. As it says in Hosea, people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And not only that, where he said, because you have rejected knowledge, I also reject you as my priest, because you have ignored the laws of your Elohim. And this is something, in my opinion, that, I think the grace period for this is kind of over, because we're going to wrap this thing up really quick. And if you don't have oil in your lamp, which is another whole allegorical phraseology, and can explain to people what is really being said, will be kind of, but let me go back to this, the word knowledge, before I get into this. There are 3 words biblically used for this, what we would call spiritual understanding and revelation knowledge. It's the words chokmah, which is wisdom, bina, which is understanding. It is the word knowledge used here in Hosea. You have to get it from the Hebrew, is the word deot. If I'm saying that correctly, diat. Okay, DE/OT. It means knowledge. What it is, it's a synthesis. It is sort of like Elohim it's where you finally have put it together. You get the big picture. You have the truest, deepest, purest, complete spiritual understanding. We need to have knowledge. If we don't have this correct knowledge to offer the world, especially as the bread of life, we are worthless. We have nothing to offer people, and the enemy, he just swoops in and he causes all these race wars, whatever, because we think. So I'm going to read from Philo. Now, Philo, was this is my thing too. We need to get we need to be, see, I know a lot of these words. I'm trying to reclaim certain words that the enemy has absconded with, but the theosophy, ancient Hebraic, Israeli, Judaism had a fully flushed out for Moses, mature understanding. You didn't even need to add to it. Okay? Ancient, we'll call it Judaism, which is one word I know people, or ancient Israelite understanding had a complete theosophy to it. And that Moses got, and he taught the children, and he had it, oral Torah, written Torah, whatever. But Philo, who was one of the greatest philosophers, theosophers, he truly understood all of these ramifications, left us with a great treatise. It says here, what is meant by the 3 sons of Noah being named Shem, Ham, and Japheth? See, on the first level, you always think, well, they're just talking about dudes named Shem, Ham, and Japheth, but these are all archetypal spiritual realities and understandings. So these names are the symbols of 3 human things or states of souls. What is good, what is bad and what is indifferent. So Shem is the symbol of what is good. And we said the righteous remnant. And if you follow literally that lineage out, it goes into Abraham, into Isaac, into Jacob. This is a righteous remnant who have a good soul. Ham is what is bad. Ham is, because what I'm going to get into and show you the deepness of how these mysteries are couched into the language, because a lot of this, and my whole point with this is mature. We are a group of mature priests at the end of the age. If we can't handle this meat of the word like this, then we really are worthless. I mean, seriously, at this point, with everything we've read and understood, trying to put it together. So Japheth, and so Ham is, and this is why there are the two bloodlines that come. Who is your father? This is the point. You know, you will know a tree by its fruit. So is Lucifer your father? And the evil, or is Elohim, Adonai Elohim, your father, and your fruit? Jesus just said you'll know them. You'll know what root system people are coming because of their fruit. So if someone is black, this is the way the words is bad, is dark. They have a soul that is given over into evil. They will not come to the light. And Japheth of what is indifferent. And this is the point. There's a huge multitude of people. This is at the end of the age, in the valley of indecision. People who just can't make up their mind. They're either indifferent to the greater realities going on and the judgment that's about ready to descend on them, or they just. And so it's our job. This is going to really wake people up. You've got to decide which side of the fence you're going to come down on this thing. So for the divine spirit is not a motion of the air, but intellect and wisdom, which is another way of saying Chokmah and Bina. Just as it also flows over the man who with great skill constructed the tabernacle of Adonai, Bezalel. So what I'm trying to say is these words have spiritual understandings that we need to reclaim. So when a word is used like red, it has a context. It has an absolute established context. So David was a ruddy youth. From his youth, he was ruddy. But let me go into this now, how it's used, because my subtitle was, I've got one last point to make my point. In the Amidah, there's a part here, it says that Yahweh, Elohim, you graciously bestow knowledge upon man and teach mortals understanding. Graciously bestow upon us from your wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Blessed are you, Adonai Elohim, who graciously bestows knowledge. That word knowledge, these words are very specific. We're talking about Chokmah and Bina, which is two sides. This is the whole point. We need to master, in my opinion, the tree of life, which is the most ancient theosophy coming down from Adam. It can be proven. This is the testimony of the righteous remnant out of Judah, that this is talking about an understanding of the right side and the left hand of Elohim, how it works, how it functions, the middle pillar. All these words have context and are completely established already in the ancient theology of ancient Israel. So wisdom is Chokmah, and understanding is Bina, and knowledge. We need to get, so the Amidah, which they say comes from Ezra, Nehemiah, that whole period where they were trying to lock down, basically, because I think prophetically they could see the future and it didn't really look pretty. They were trying to lock down some of this ancient theology. But so this concept of my subtitle of one light, just think about that for a second, because I think there's one light, Elohim, let there be light, but there are 7 colors. Now, actually, this is the way it always works. There's a million colors. I'm an artist, and I just love color because there's so many nuances, and it's a beautiful thing that Elohim created. But it's color, but it's still light. So there is one light, but it has, and this is where you get into the nothing classifies things as well, as linearly, as organized as Hebrew. Hebrew is the supreme system for classification. You can take the most complex, and this is the whole point of this, from simplicity, which does not mean low level understanding. I mean, it's counterintuitive. Simplicity means the most purest essence into the most complex structure or physicality of like our physical world. So I'm saying Hebrew is you cannot beat it for classifications. That's why you have 7 colors in the sense, and it's like 10 commandments. We know there's a zillion, I mean, outplayings of how you could break a commandment. I mean, just thou shalt not lie. If you were a lawyer, you'd have whole volumes that talk about lying, perjury in court, or, you know, different categories of how that can play out. So the way they classify with 7 colors, this absolutely relates to the 7 Sepharith of that is the theology of ancient Israel, and how these interactions, see, combinations, it's all about combinations. So, you know, you start with 3 primaries, you know, red, yellow, and blue, and you can make just about everything. You make every color out there. And these, so this is, again, once you can establish an archetypal concept, it's like a stamp. You can just put it all the way down on every single truth. So when David is ruddy and he is handsome and beautiful, this is really referring to, and I would say it's for Jackson, see, this is what they're doing. Because like the part where Noah, I know in a lot of the apocryphal works, they'll talk about some of these great saints that come on the scene. And it's fantastical. You know, Noah glows, his eyes are doing this, and he's like, well, no baby looks like that, because they're not telling you, and they're not trying to describe the literal baby that's, you know, wrapped in its mother's womb. They're trying to tell you the soul of this thing that just came on the scene. Yeshua in the what do they call that? The transfiguration. I mean, he's contained in this physical body to fulfill his mission, but he is absolutely, and if you study the Sepharith of Elohim is just all over him in his true spiritual nature. So red is a color that is associated with the left side of the left hand of Elohim, which is, you know, I can't get too deep on all this, but he is a consuming fire. Part of our Elohim is, yes, Professor Smith, it is way beyond. We are not talking. See, this is why we have to get beyond the literal understandings, the fundamentalists, and that's where Satan loves to keep us as fundamentalists, into the deeper spiritual realities that the language as symbols is telling us. So when Elohim is described as a consuming fire, which he is, this is one of his personas, all right, all over the text. He burns up the chaff. Fire is always associated on the left side with judgment and justice. Elohim, but on the flip side, you have the mercy of Elohim, the Echad. You know, he is loving kindness and he is tender mercy. So what I want to tell you in this, what the prophet's telling you about David being a ruddy youth with, I have the 3 words, he has beautiful eyes and is pleasant to look at. One time is physical. He is an absolutely perfect combination, synthesis in his soul, a highly evolved, in this is what Elohim knows looking down the road. I mean, he sees our end from our beginning, so nothing is hidden from his sight. He is seeing David. He's telling Jesse, or he's telling Samuel, this is the guy. This guy he's got my consuming fire in him, boom, but he's also full of my loving kindness and my goodness. And this is really important to understand, because I believe, you know, the whole point of the 2 comings of Messiah is all about, you know, Messiah ben Joseph. We live in these 2 days where Messiah ben Joseph has promised scripturally, he's going after the nations, all those that want to come out of the nations, but it's going to turn on a dime. And like I read out of the Dead Sea Scrolls, and when he comes back as a consuming fire, believe me, you don't want to come under just that consuming fire. Right now we can get into the, you know, the goodness of Elohim, his loving kindness. But when you study out, and this is why I love reading the extra biblical works, because, you know, the Bible that we bring, I don't care whether you're talking to King James or a Tanakh, you're still bringing the cliff notes to your meeting. Back at the ranch, there's a whole library of texts that are backing up what is in our cliff note, so to speak, Bible. So, I mean, you read stories like in the Agada of the Jews, or in the Mishnah, and a lot of the, like the book of Joshua, a lot of the writings, they will give you so much more information about David than we would ever get out of our just Bible text. But he was known also, I mean, he wrote over 3,000 Psalms, right? And his Psalms are highly apocryphal. Well, you don't just get to write 3,000 Psalms, because we know now from the Dead Sea Scrolls that he wrote many more Psalms than are in our text. Highly apocryphal. He obviously was a master Torah scholar. He knew the keys. He was able to enter into, this would be called the supernal realms. His mind was so filled with the Chokmah and the Bina of Elohim, and with knowledge, he was able to project out unbelievably beautiful, highly coded Psalms that are full of prophecy, that are full of apocryphal understandings, and yes, have literal applications and have comfort in them that a child can understand. But we're not children. We are not children. We need to stop acting with you like children, and we need to be mature and to be able to eat the meat and drink the strong wine of the word, which is what it's telling us. But these words, the three words that are tied in with David being, handsome and having, good looking eyes, it just cracks me up, is the concept of he was beautiful. So the word eyes is in there. It's the word ayin. And then good and pleasant. So twice you have a reiteration of the word beautiful, good, pleasant, agreeable. And in eyes, which we know sight, we're talking spiritual sight. David was full of the goodness and the mercy of Elohim in a highly spiritual way. He was fully versed in this aspect of Yahweh. And a lot of the verses come out of this, like, saw their light was good. In the very beginning, when he made the light, when Elohim made the light, he said it was good, pleasant. And when you're talking about the light that was made in creation, we are so far away from physical light or the sun. We are light years. We are in different realms of quote unquote inner space, the kingdom of heaven that is within. You'll never see this. This light is so pure in essence. The only way we can receive it is through illumination in our mind, through revelation, knowledge, and spiritual understanding. The other one is beautiful and pleasant and goodly. How pleasant are his dwelling places. And then his eyes, when you eat, in the kinds of knowledge of good and evil. A mature saint should be able to discern, and knowledge uses discernment, good and evil. So all these words are packed up into the fact that here is David, this ruddy, this red, not like he, red, and then the other side would be his loving kindness, which this is what they do. They code these words and it gets crazy. But fire is akin to justice and judgment. And mercy is akin to his loving kindness, which is akin to water. So you have fire and water are another whole world of phraseology and apocryphal understanding that they use to describe this. The living water. So you have a contrast here between either you can receive the living waters, you can be cleansed and washed with the word, and you can come under, and the goodness of Elohim leads to repentance. You can do it that way. If you don't, boom, he's going to have to use his left side, justice and judgment, the consuming fire. These are the fiery angels. Either way, and the world is coming into a place that's going to be burned up by fire, because basically the gig is up. The end of the age is here, and that's what it's talking about. And it's not talking anything about a physical fire per se. It's talking about the light of Elohim is going to be so bright that you're either going to be able to stand in it and you have it, you are it, or it's going to burn you up. So this is what is a really important contrast, and David is a perfect example. He's a Torah-keeping scholar. That's what I was going back to say. I love reading this book called The Legends of the Jews, because they're not legends. See how come this ancient world that they try to portray that is some kind of I'm going to get to that, Lee. That's the next place. You get so much information. David was such a Torah scholar, but he was a man of war. See, this is what really struck me about this. And this is where Yeshua comes back. He's a man of war, all right? And this is so important to understand. David, the reason he didn't build the temple, is because he had a calling. He was called, and as akin to Joshua, was a man of war. There's a lesson. Elohim has righteous warriors who he sends out to consume the wicked. And David is a perfect example. That's why he was ruddy, because Elohim was going to use him to finally subdue and crush, get rid of all of the last traces. Well, it's a big story, but a lot of the last Nephilim, from the giants on down to some of the bad bloodlines that were dogging the people of Israel and helping them to set up their kingdom. David was ruddy. He was from the side of justice and judgment, and Elohim used him mightily in that. And Elohim is going to use the second Yeshua as a consuming fire when he comes back in the same way. And that, grace is gone. It's so anyways, this is something to understand about David, and understand about, like, when you read about some of these stories, some of the unbelievable exploits. Joab, who I believe was his nephew. I mean, if you've ever read in some of these, like I said, the Agada is not necessary. It's not made up. I guess what it is, at the end of the age, we're so watered down, everything. So much of Satan keeps so much of his spiritual, he tries to keep so much of his workings behind the scenes so that we won't catch him, so to speak. But these people knew who they were fighting, and they were not, and they had unbelievable strength. Samson, this is what it is. These people, there is a time and there is a place for Elohim to get his warriors out and to use them in the physical. And this is what's coming out. Here, I had one more little verse I was going to use. In Nahum, chapter 2, verse 3, it says, the shields of his mighty men are colored red. This is what I point. These people have an anointing to move in the justice and in the judgment of Elohim. The warriors are dressed in scarlet. There's no accident that we're using red here, all right? The chariots are enveloped in flashing steel when he is prepared to march, and the cypress spears are brandished. This is talking about the armies of Elohim in the last days. There's going to be a people on the planet. And the shield, and again, in another King James, it says, the shield of his mighty men is made red. The valiant men are in scarlet. The chariot shall be with flaming torches, because fire a lot of times is red. I mean, that's one of the colors associated with it. In the day of his preparation, and the fir tree shall be terribly shaken. See, one of the things we don't even understand, that trees represent people. A lot of times, one of the levels of meaning on trees is it's representing living entities, which is an ecosystem. So there were two trees in the garden. And this is where I want to go in the last understanding here, because see, for me, it's helped me, because to me, knowledge is power. I mean, I understand the supernal realms, the lesser Elohims, what's been going on. And, Yahweh is going to end up here as the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. His name is above all these other Elohims. His essence, his name, he is the King of Kings and the Lord of Glory. All these other imposters are going bye-bye. They are coming down. Unbelievable. And he is going to have a whole crop of his mighty warriors who can administer justice and judgment with him. But one of the things that's really interesting, I'm not going to totally flush this out today, because this is a whole huge deep teaching, but this is how Hebrew and you have letters and you have vowels. Now the letters are male and female. This is a fact, right? But again, there's a deep spiritual arcane understanding in this. The vowels are also male and female. But the construct here is that the letters, okay, so you have the letters. This is sort of a concept of the written Torah. But the vowel points act like the body is to the spirit. Now, let me explain this, and let me explain it, and then I'm going to show you in the text why this is so important to have this understanding. There's a whole kind of understanding of the horse and the rider. I will take that example. It's used over and over. Well, that is an apocryphal allegorical construct of fact that you always have a horse, and the point is a horse is still a beast, but it can be moved, you know, like the bridle, it can be moved by the rider. So this is the point. Like our bodies are like the horse, okay, the physical container of it, but it is our spirit, our soul that moves the body and causes it to do what it's due. You never see the body just, you know, getting up and doing something on its own. No, the mind has to tell the body what to do. And that's why the whole concept of we got to have our mind elevated. We've got to be telling our body what to do from the higher realm. Otherwise, you know, we're carnal, we're toes, we're fleshly, we're all those, okay? But the horse and but the sun and a lot of these analogies work out the same with the sun and the moon. You have, you know, the upper and the lower, you with the relation of the mother and daughter. Okay, but we'll stick with the horse and the rider. But the vowel points are what give those letters, are what fill the letters with their spiritual meaning. Oh, that makes sense. So it is the vowel points, and this is why, you know, and this is the thing that these priests, I mean, they were doing I mean, it's amazing to me. Even I know the Masoretic text is full of some errors and things, but to me, as a system of transmission, you still can't beat it on the planet. There is no other world system or group that has a verifiable transmission system generation than Hebrew. I mean, you know, from the Dead Sea Scrolls, they could find Isaiah, a copy, and I think there's at least, I think over 2,300 years between the two that we have, and they're almost exactly the same. And nobody else has that track record. And I know the Masoretic text even has some, but it's still a heck of a lot better than anything that we have. It's unbelievable. So when you get into this, if you were to do a study on the word, which is what really got me going, I'm like, oh my gosh, I never saw this, Father. You're taking me down a rabbit trail. I can't. If you were to take the word red, Strong's 132, which is the word admoni, which is the word we get ruddy, which is used in 3 places, because now we bring Esau. I'm going to end. I hope I'm not going too long. I'm going to make my last couple points. Esau is also red. Well, what does that mean? Okay. And this is the point. If you were to take the first, and then they'll say the root word for this is, which is 119, which is edom, A-D-O-N. Let me go this way. From Strong's 119 up until 124, all of those words, which you get edom, A-D-O-N, you get 120, you get Adam, A-D-A-M. 121, you get Adam as the proper name. 122, you get A-D-O-M, you get the word red, which is the root word for ruddy. From 123, you get edom, which is the root word for Adam, A-D-O-M. And then at 124, you get the word odem, which is ruby, which is again red, which you get, you know, that they translated it for the red stone, a garnet or a ruby or a sardis. My point is, all of these words, they're all the same letters. It's Aleph, Daled, and Shemek. And they all in the grammatic come up to 45. The only thing that's different is the vowel points. It's only in the vowel points that you can make these distinctions between what type of Adam, A-D-O-M, are we talking about? A-D-A-M, A-D-O-M, E-D-O-M, or O-D-E-M. And they all are kind of surfacing around the same concept of red and ruddy, the left side. So this is where it gets really deep, because Esau was also red. He was the first one to come out red. And this coded in this, and I'm not going to do this today, but I will do teaching on this. You really have the 2 trees in the garden. You really have the 2 bloodlines. You have the rabbis, the sages, from everyone understanding, passing this information down through the vowel points. Like, who would have known? Okay. So Edom, and this is why we get this concept, Edom, the Edomites, who is always at war with the Adamites, A-D-A-M, same letters, same grammatica, but different vowel points. So this is why I am sticking to my guns. I'm sticking to what I'm doing. And I think it's time that, you know, this is to me the meat of the word that we need to flesh out, because we need to really have an answer for people who want to know why the hope is in us, as everything, quote unquote, goes up in flames. And it's not a literal fire. We can stand our ground because we know the true spiritual realities that are ours and our inheritance. And we can pull people out of the fire. Oh my gosh. So it is important to me. And there's a whole group of writings that we need to take seriously. And I think it would just help us to be the army that at the time of judgment, that all the sons of his truth shall awake. So I say that. Rise. There's a word, the last word, kum. I say this to myself now, spirit, kum, rise. Rise up, O men and women of Elohim. So, shalom.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Hazen.
When the ark rested, Moshe said, "Return, O Yahweh, to the 10,000 thousands of Israel." We pray together.
Avenu Shobashamayim Yekadash Shemcha Ve'yitbarek Malchutcha Retzoncha Yehiyeh Asui Bashamayim Ubarek Ve'titain Lachmenu Tiraet Dit Umechal Lanu Chetotenu Kaasher Anachnu Mochalim Lachotim Lanu Veal Tevi'ino Ledai Nis Sayom Veshomrenu Mikol Ra Yamen.
Our Father in the sky, may your name be sanctified. May your reign be blessed. Your will be done in sky and land.